Get your first lesson on Fusion 360 with this project idea. This is an Uno card holder, and it is the same piece printed twice. We're clicking on Sketch, and we're picking a plane here. We're going to grab a rectangle, and we're going to add our dimensions to it. I always like to tip it a little bit just to see this extrude. Maybe that's just me being silly. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish our extrude and jump right into the shell command. The shell command is kind of a clever little command where I can just dictate the sides and the thickness of the bottom all in one move. It's kind of slick. You could do an extrude as a cut, but we're just saving a little bit of time here. We're going to doodle on the bottom of this plane with our line command. The line command has a kind of neat feature where you can drag and make an arc by clicking and holding. And of course, just a little quick line over to the right. I'm adding dimensions to constrain it here. But the one thing I'm going to figure out in a second is that this arc didn't exactly line up tangent with my horizontal line. And we can see here when I zoom in. See how that just doesn't quite line up? I don't like that. So what we can do is we can jump out and we're going to delete that radius. And we're going to jump up to our constraint window and we're going to grab our tangent. And we're going to, when we see the little symbol there line up, we now have a tangent line. Now this is warning me of an over constraint. But we're going to finish the sketch. We're going to start an extrude here. Now, turns out this was a mistake, but I didn't catch it at this moment. We're going to see it pop up here in just a second. But you can see that I kind of sort of like this, the cutaway, and I'm adding work planes here. And so the work planes I'm going to use to grab a axis to send off. And you can see that I'm selecting both sides of the box in a mid plane. So I'm basically adding an imaginary plane right in the center of this box, and see how that turns into a axis where those two planes meet. That's going to allow me to use the circular command for pattern. And what it requires you to do is to pick a central axis, as you can see here. So now that we have our original cutaway, we can rotate it, and oops, this is the part I was worried about. See how it cut all the way through? I'm going to figure out how, this is me trying to understand this reality, but when we circle back, we're going to see that I'm just going to do a distance on that extrude cut. And here it is. I'm now finding that this distance, so now you can see that this extrude cut it doesn't go very far. It doesn't go to a new thing. It in fact terminates at a very precise depth. So what I'm going to start doing here is I'm going to start working on this, these little notches here. So I'm doing P for project geometry, which will allow me to design this little keystone shaped cut. And we're going to constrain it here, or dimension it rather, and add more lines. And this constraint here is also going to allow us to completely define its shape. We're going to finish sketch, and then we're going to do an extrude, and we're going to click our area, and we're going to do a cut. And we will be picking we were picking our cut to the bottom of this holder. Here we go. So that's kind of a taste of what that's going to look like there. I'm pretty happy with that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do a circular pattern, and we're going to drop that feature down into the bottom left side. And of course, since we have our axis, we can spin it around the axis. I like how it kind of shows you in advance where those cuts will be, and you can add more or less instances. And of course, there's 3 instances that it shows you, but we only need 2, the first one and the last one. I'm kind of happy with that. And so we could have combined these 2 cuts into the same sketch, but I'm going to actually drop, just because I was being a little bit too careful, I'm going to use this sketch down here and project the geometry to make my sketch roll easy. I'm going to run lines from the left to the right, and that's going to show me my extent of this keystone. Instead of a notch, this is going to be like a keystone peg, as it were. So most modern drafters don't bother with this. This was like an old holdover. I was trained in manual drafting with, pencils and papers and erasers, T-squares, triangles, all sorts of that crazy material. And now CAD is really good, and 3D modeling is really good about this. See how I click from the bottom right and I went to the top left? That is a way to select multiple lines all at once. And of course, I'm just coming through and dimensioning here. I'm adding my constraints. There shouldn't be anything exciting here. It was all based off of a geometry, and we're basically just constraining it so we know that Fusion 360 is not going to freak out. And we're going to come up here and we're going to work on like a keystone shaped wedge here. It's the same as before. We're just repeating this. This is one of the best ways to learn, is just through repetition. Of course, there's quicker ways to build this. But on our first design, I would rather see you guys repeat the same operations again and again so you get them down pat. And so now we're going to do an extrude cut here to remove all this material, and this will leave behind just 2 keystone-shaped pegs, as this shows here. And then we're going to run up here to a quick circular command. We're going to drop that new cut on the left side. And that's kind of what she looks like there. So I'm going to put a slot in the bottom here with a projecting geometry of our 2 midplanes that we added. just drop a circle in here. We're going to make that to 1 inch. And then we're going to send lines. Again, this is an old holdover from the way I was trained, but now I know that I'm going directly tangent to that circle. That's all I'm trying to accomplish. I'm going to use the trim command here, just a quick T, and then I can cut or rather erase all these lines that I don't need anymore. I'm just adding some quick dimensions to really lock this in place here. There we go. That final line really showed that that whole thing is locked in place. Finish our sketch. We're going to do an extrude. We're going to cut this notch in here. There's no reason why we couldn't have made this notch the full length. I felt that if I just get 1/2 and do a mirror, then I would be satisfied that I wouldn't have any mistake centering this slot into the bottom here.
Anything worthwhile on here?
That's me just turning off the model real quick. I just wanted to make sure that those planes were missing here. And we're going to be jumping into doing fillets. So when we 3D print a part like this, having a sharp corner causes a stress riser, which what that means for us is that when you 3D print the part, this can curl and it can move in ways that we weren't anticipating. So the fillet command is really nice. You just pick all your edges, you pick your radius, and it populates exactly what you described to it. I'm adding an even smaller and tighter radius to these few here. The same idea, which is I don't want to add a ton of stress to these keystone shape pieces. I want them to be nice and straight and tall. I want them to curl at all. We're going to hit OK. And I am reasonably happy with that. Of course, we're going to do a quick save on this so we don't lose all of our hard work. And we're going to export this as an STL. STL is a common file used by 3D printers.